I mean, you're bringing the red hair to this.
I mean, I wore my punk rock dress. But
yeah, let's show off our costumes.
This is like my...
Describe it.
One toe in, one toe out. I could be in a band. It's a black jean dress.
Do you know what I'm seeing is like after this whole experience, Tess decided to join a band and would wear that.
See, I feel like this is Anna, but like in the future.
Ah, I like that better. Yes.
Wait, Lisa, who are you?
Yeah, Lisa, tell us about your costume.
I'm Stacy Hinkhouse. I'm Stacy Hinkhouse in the gym scene, the volleyball gym scene. So I don't know if you know this, but it was very
niche.
It was very trendy to roll your sleeves.
Oh, we remember.
We know.
Especially in high school, if you were wearing a cotton tee to roll the sleeves. It was the style.
But Lisa, you really took that trend far.
The reason why I decided to be Stacy, even though I don't think I have the same personality as her, I 100% was that girl who woke up, took a shower every morning, blow dried my hair, and put on makeup. And I was like, I can relate.
I remember you had a very, like, a green shirt. I don't know what you two artists would know the color palette, but do you know what color I'm talking about?
One shirt comes to mind for me, and Lisa, I don't know if we shared this, but I feel like I had this same shirt in a bunch of different colors, but it was like almost like a camisole, but it had like lace.
Yes.
And like very thin straps, and there was like lace here, and then there was like lace along the bottom, and sometimes you would wear a shirt over it and the lace would like stick out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of layers and always that lace trim.
Sometimes it is good to hold on to things because you never know when you're going to need it. Like Michelle, I don't think you've ever owned a choker with a guitar pick on it, but if you did, you could have held on to it and worn it today.
Is that a piece of a dart?
Yes.
Is it?
So
I knew right away. I was like, that's definitely a portion of a dart.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm married to a dart player and not a musician, so this is what I had to work with. But I was like between this or like I could have used when we first got our cats, they never wore collars, but we did get them little tags like and I think they had tags for their like rabies shots. Yeah. So I thought of it, that was like my initial thought, but this seemed closer to a guitar pick, a dart
honestly very inventive. I am always so impressed by Michelle's costume choices, truly.
Thank you.
I think that since we don't have a costume budget, we need to tap into our resources. Our one sister is not represented in this recording.
Yes,
Allison is our costume.
You want her on tour? She's your costume mistress.
She is. Just need to give her, more than 24 hours in advance. But she could turn it around quick.
I think that's actually Allison's specialty is a fast turnaround on a great costume.
Yes. Okay, so we are back. We are joined by Lisa, aka Stacy Hinkhouse, for this special episode. She's a returning guest. I will say, I was thinking before hopping on today that she really loves to join episodes that portray adults as children, because her last episode that she was here was Elf. So Lisa, we're going to start with you today because when I think of this movie, I think most of you, because we were in the house together during this time. Michelle, were you graduated from college yet?
I was in college when this came out.
You were in college. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was like a DVD we had. I have the image of the DVD just painted in my mind forever. And most of my memories are us watching this together. So what are your first memories of this film?
Okay, my first memories of Freaky Friday are going to see it in the movies.
Oof.
So it came out in 2003. I was in 8th grade. So at this point, with my school friends, we were doing a lot of like girl guy group hangouts. So we went with a group, I want to say maybe like 11 or 12 of us went to the Palisades Mall. I still remember we sat in like the top rows in the middle section, and we went and saw this together, and it was so much fun. She's 15 in the movie, I believe, so I was just like a few years younger than her, but like really she was only a few years older than us in real life. So I felt like when I rewatched this, I was like, oh my gosh, when I first saw this movie, this was so relatable to life in high school. And it just like, that's why I loved it so much. I was like, whatever this girl's going through, all of us are going through right now. It's
Great
great.
memory.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I
So
mean, I
good.
have no memory of first seeing this, but sorry, I have a very important question. The Palisades Mall
Okay.
has come up on multiple episodes because
Yes.
it was near and dear to our heart growing up. Did you go to Stir Crazy before going to the movies?
I did not, but I mean, I was in eighth grade. I wasn't driving. So clearly, some parents dropped us off at the movie theater. So we probably just went to the movies, and I don't know what we did after. We might have went to get like ice cream or something, but honestly, we weren't doing much more than that. So,
Oh, sounds like an ideal
but
day. I know Michelle's
oh, it was
jealous
great.
because she was not going to co-ed hangouts in 8th grade at the
No,
Palisades Mall, let me tell you.
no.
Definitely. Well, the Palisades Mall, I don't think opened until I think when I was in ninth grade it
Okay.
opens.
That's
But
great timing though.
it was ideal timing. I think about that all the time. But can I just give one more sidebar to the movie theater at the Palisades Center? I don't know if you guys ever did this, but I have memories of me and Allison. For the listeners, our other sister who's closer in age with me. I feel like there was a time period where we would get Blimpie sandwiches and bring them into the movies with
Respect.
us.
I
Which is so bizarre.
definitely no. Why is it bizarre?
In the Palisades?
Yeah,
What's wrong with that?
We would go to the food court, buy Blimpie sandwiches, put them in our big bags, and then
Specifically
God.
the breaded chicken cutlet sandwich.
no, I think of like a turkey sandwich like that had like many
I
pickles
know your
on it.
order. Yes. But
Wow,
I
what a
think I was
memory.
involved. I think that you guys brought me along on some of these Blimpie movie outings, which I feel very honored.
It does make sense as something we would do because from the 90s, when the movie theater was at Nanuet Mall South, we would bring popcorn, like
Nanuet Mall South.
microwave popcorn in the plastic baggies. Like we were going in with that popcorn. So I guess the food prices just were always an issue.
I think this is a lot of parents of 90s and 2000s kids,
Yes.
but like everything was very much like baseball game, movies, theme park.
Yeah.
We're packing a cooler and bringing our own food.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, so you were in college during this time frame, so you're not seeing this with a group of teens at the mall. What are your memories of this movie?
Very similarly to Elf, which came out the same year. I don't know what time of year this came out. I consider this to be one of those movies where I came home from college and it was just like you guys were obsessed with it. And I felt a little like I had some catching up to do. And I did. I felt like I put my time in. I probably watched the DVD with you guys while I was home, for breaks, summer, and then I have to think that we kept watching this. I remember liking it, but also, had you guys seen the original before you saw this one?
No, I saw the original probably within the last 15 years. 1976. I've never seen the 1995 one.
Oh, I don't even know there was a 1995 one.
There is.
Who was in that one?
What?
I'm being a bad cinephile right now because I know the faces of the two leads, but
Really?
Okay, we'll look it up. We'll
Yeah.
look it up. But okay, so I don't know. I don't have a memory of the first time I saw the original, but for whatever reason, I just have a soft spot for all of those like live action Disney movies that came out like before like 1980, and Freaky Friday being one of them. I think especially Freaky Friday has a lot of like slapstick in it, which I just absolutely love that kind of comedy. It felt really cozy and funny. And when this version, the 2003 version, came out, I don't know that I disliked it and was comparing it, but I think I'm glad that they did it very differently. I guess it is kind of in the same way that I think about the Parent Traps. I see them as like not trying to make it better, just doing something different and more contemporary. And they all four of those films work great.
And I love that with most of these movies, we always say, yes, we had it on DVD. And I just I have to say, what a fantastic DVD cover. Just the colors, the outfits, which are not even exactly what they wore in the film, but it's great. I would get a poster of it.
So, Laura, how
That'd be
about
cool.
you? You don't remember seeing it in the movies, but do
Mm-mm.
you have memories of watching it? Like, I couldn't pinpoint watching it like in some, in a certain season or a certain setting or with certain people. It was just like
No.
on.
I wish that I did, but I really don't. I think this is just one of those, this falls into the category of that it was like woven into the fabric of my like adolescence. I just have seen this movie so many times, but I loved rewatching it, especially because now I live in LA. It takes place here. So, like, all of the scenes as I was watching it last night were like, oh my God, I go to these places. I go to the promenade. I go to Chinatown. I go to this place. So, like, it's kind of cool watching it as an adult now and being like, oh, I live in this place. And also, Lisa was just entering high school. I was a little bit younger. So, the high school experience was a little bit foreign to me. If there was like a character, I'm probably closest to like Harry when this came out. I feel like I've just like grown up with this movie.
Can we also briefly talk about the movie Life Size? Because I kind of, in my mind, like put these two movies together. I'm guessing maybe Life Size came before this.
Thousand.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
Okay.
3 years before.
I think it may have been maybe a direct to tape. I feel like we had the tape. I don't think
Okay.
we had the DVD
Ugh.
of this movie Life Size,
Yeah.
starring Tyra Banks as a kind of like a Barbie type character who comes to life, and then it's like Lindsay Lohan's doll, right?
Absolutely fantastic film. If you have not seen Life Size, go see it. We need to cover that
I
movie.
do remember the Eve song. The Barbie's character's name is Eve, and
Eve's
she
great, no matter where she goes. Yeah, so good. I need that soundtrack.
I recently watched this Vice series on early 2000s pop culture, and there was one episode that was all about Lindsay Lohan. So in the back of my mind when I was watching this movie, I knew everything that was going on in her personal life outside of this. And she did talk about how 1998 was the Parent Trap, and that kind of launched her into stardom. And then from 1998 probably to 2005 or 6, she just had blockbuster hit after blockbuster hit, and she really was like in the spotlight in America as a young actress, and she was so successful. And when you were talking about your appreciation for Disney film, I do remember watching the original Freaky Friday at like different times, and it's just funny to think back why we watched it, because those movies were always like acceptable for us to watch. It was like there was like a little bit of stuff that was like teetering on the edge of inappropriateness, but it either went over our heads or it was like very innocent. So it was the same for The Parent Trap and Freaky Friday, the original one. And then I knew when this came out, also I was going to be allowed to go see this in the movies because it was a Disney film. And so I think that just goes to show the impact of Disney reaching these wide audiences, and especially for parents, they usually approve these movies, which is pretty incredible. It's so fun to go back and watch these movies as an adult, a new perspective, and just see how much thought goes into producing them and the impact that they can have over a span of 20 plus years.
It's pretty amazing that Mean Girls came out the year after this. Like, she did Freaky Friday and then she did Mean Girls, and both are still woven into most millennial lives, I'd say.
Yep.
Michelle, what do you love most about Freaky Friday?
Hands down, what I love most was Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't want to say this in the sense that Lindsay Lohan wasn't great, because she was. I think Jamie Lee Curtis and that character, the way that it was written, was kind of like set up to win the movie. I mean, she got every single funny line. Her physical comedy was great. It's interesting, Laura, I think you were about to kind of say this before, that Jamie Lee Curtis kind of came in as like a last minute replacement for this and had very little time to learn the role. But yet I can see this movie being recast. Any other character, including Lindsay Lohan, could have been played by someone else. But I don't think that Tess could have been played by anyone other than Jamie Lee Curtis.
No. And this is like one of those, fun fact tidbits, but apparently there was a conversation while they were filming that they wanted her to like dial down her character a little bit because she was kind of like, a little bit too strong. And she basically was like, fuck off. I'm coming here to do this job. I need to like go all in. And I'm so happy that she didn't dial it down. And I think it's also really cool because I don't think either of you have seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, but just seeing her comedy in that in the recent years and now like going back and watching this, and she just makes me die laughing when she's like in these comedic roles. I just think that she like absolutely wins this film by far.
She's wonderful. In this rewatch, I feel like I ended up with more things I did not like. So I'll let the two of you talk more. I'll just share my one other, what I thought was like a really strong thing about this movie. And it was just what we opened the episode with, just bringing us right back to that era of the early 2000s. The music and the outfits, the vibes, and between the three of us kind of spans me a little bit older, Laura, you a little bit younger than Lindsay Lohan or Anna's character, but I felt like still a lot of what she was relating to as a character were things that we related to. Just the experience of being at school, and every time I see a school scene that involves gym class, I just get so stressed out. I don't know if I should give them so much credit for like capturing the essence because they were creating it in real time, but it's fun now 20 years later to kind of have a snapshot of this era, and it feels so, I don't know, I think that this is why I always love watching old movies, is because it almost, when time passes by, those eras become almost fiction, even though for us in the 2000s, like we lived through it, the whole world feels like, how did that world exist, and how does our current world also exist? So yeah, it was a fun time capsule moment for me.
Growing up, if you related to Anna's character at all, did mom and dad ever try and take your door away?
Mine? Not that I recall. And so, you know what it kind of reminded me of is I had a big gripe in our Parent Trap episode about the prank they pulled by putting all the furniture on the roof of the camp. These like three tiny kids hoisted heavy bunk beds onto the roof, and no one noticed.
I guess I'll rephrase my question. What would be your punishment if, I mean, you were not the type to get detention and be failing classes, but what do you think?
What was my punishment?
What do you think your big punishment would be?
My big punishments, and this should come as no surprise, was always like, you can't use the computer.
Oh,
like no, and there was no texting when I was in high school. So it was like no AOL Instant Messenger, which was like, and I know like Lisa has also had text related punishments, and that's the word. I mean, to me, I would almost rather be able to still text, use the computer, but like, you can take my door, because I had no privacy anyway. So what difference does it make?
That's so true. Lisa, what about you? What was your big punishment?
Oh, I got punished all the time. Like very like I definitely abused the texting situation very much so. The worst was my phone was taken overnight, maybe for like a week, and I wasn't able to have it because I was clearly texting like into the hours of the night. It was just like, what else do you do when you're in high school? You have to go to school, whether you want to be there or not, and all you want to do is hang out with your friends or talk to your friends. And I see it now with these young kids. They all have phones, and it's the same thing. It hasn't changed. It's a different decade. But it
was just really difficult to type because we had
but like
our flip phones, which was, what a time. I think we should bring it back.
Lisa was a master.
Oh my God.
Lisa
master typer.
had the flip phone do you have the little, that's very tiny keyboard, right, on one of your phones?
So
That was
I
mine
I
at
went
some point,
through
but
the evolution of I really like, and I'm happy for this. I feel like I wouldn't have wanted to grow up at any other time. The age I was when texting took off was like the bet. Like I remember when Michelle got her Nokia, that was pre-texting. Okay, then the evolution. What me and Mike talk about this all the time. Mom or dad had that StarTAC flip phone, and you could receive text messages, but you couldn't send them. So at some point, I inherited that phone, and somebody who had a texting plan could text me, but I had to call them if I wanted to comment. So it was so layered. Like every year, there was a new phone that came out and a new feature, and probably the end of my high school pre-iPhone was probably the prime. Those phones, they had like the texting was really easy. Basically, the way that Michelle, your generation used AOL Instant Messenger with the typing, like we just transferred that to a phone and it was like rapid fire. So I think
yeah.
it's so funny how like, everyone comments on social media now or like how kids were using phones. Like we were doing the same exact thing with the intensity, the same exact. We just had a different platform. Now that I'm a mom and I was watching all the scenes with Tess, like in her bag when there's like 80 devices going off and like it's like her beeper and her phone, and she probably had like multiple phones. That was stressing me out. I'm like, oh my God, like all these people and all of her clients could reach her at any time. And then she was in the supermarket and three of her clients called her while she was multitasking food shopping. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this was just as hard for these parents in the early 2000s. She woke up before her kids. She sat on the floor and like did like a quick meditation in her room, like literally 30 seconds. And then it was like on to the day and like no thoughts. She was just like trying to pull her daughter out of bed, pouring some orange juice for Harry. Like, and I was just like, this is a pretty accurate representation of the life of a mom. Like, and it was spot on. And I was like, damn, her husband died 3 years before and she's working full time. And, I was just like, another nod to Jamie Lee Curtis. She was really a boss.
She's so great. Well, what are some things that you loved about it besides? I mean, I think we could probably have an entire episode on JLC in this movie, but
Oh, definitely.
what are just some of your favorite aspects?
That they did a really good job with the jokes throughout the movie. Like even though a lot of them were like PG, I just feel like they were spot on. And I think I just like also had an appreciation too for it being in California. Like we had been traveling to California during the early 2000s, and it's just like culturally there was like a lot going on in California during the early 2000s. Movies, TV shows, there was like this big focus on like California in general. So I definitely appreciate that now and felt kind of cool that we had been there during those years. I just love everything about it. I love that the styles have come back also, like kind of this grunge type, like skater, like Avril Lavigne style is very prominent now. And even though I never dressed like that, I kind of like appreciate the impact. And I think teenagers now kind of are like discovering these movies and like they're like inspiring for them. I just love the impact that this movie can have like over time. And I'd have to say Lindsay Lohan is so lucky that every movie she was in is like such a vital movie in so many girls' lives. Think about it. For all of us, those movies that she was in were like some of our favorite movies.
Such back-to-back hits.
I just took a few notes about the opening scenes. It was very relatable, all of it, but also the introduction to all the characters, the boyfriend and the grandpa and the son. Yeah, all of those family dynamics to me are like such a huge part of the film. And I think also the flow of the film, like, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but recently I've been watching like some early 2000s rom-coms, and I think that This really had a lot of like substance to it. There were different settings, like Tess's office, the school, their house. Like I always love when, even the car scenes. I just love that there were multiple places that they went to, and I think it kind of rounded out the film more. Whereas like a lot of these other early 2000s films, I don't know if it's because of the budget, but it seems like there's almost like something lacking.
I think they do such a good job, to your point, of like it makes it better that there's different locations, because it really does feel like one long day. I mean, that probably, if that actually happened, think about that, one day would feel like a week. And actually, I know it's obvious because of the title, it's taking place on a Friday, but like I never really sat down and thought about that this movie truly is just one day. They
Yeah.
make it feel a lot longer, and I think that's kind of the point. I'll just say this in this section, but like one of my nitpicks is like, as living in Los Angeles, I'm like, it's so unrealistic how much they're driving all over the city. She's like, you have to be at Harry's school in 15 minutes. I'm like, you're downtown and you have to be at Harry's school, probably in Santa Monica. That is like minimum 40-minute drive, depending on what time of day it was. But no, you felt like you were kind of along for the ride with them. And like the transformation of Jamie Lee Curtis from like Jamie Lee Curtis as Tess, but then like Anna as Tess was just, I love a makeover moment in any movie, but this is a great one.
Do you guys want to talk a little bit about the other characters? Like Chad Michael Murray during this time also was like, oh my
All the
gosh.
rage.
Everybody was
Everyone's
obsessed
boyfriend
with Chad Michael Murray. So it like that was a big deal also that he was in that film.
I feel like his hair in this movie is just so fitting for the part. It's like exactly who Anna would be into. He was very well cast, I think, for her type.
I don't know Mean Girls that well. Was he in Mean Girls?
He was not in Mean Girls.
Okay.
Nope. He would have been great though. That would have been a good continuation.
He was in that other movie with Hilary
Cinderella
Duff.
Story.
Such
a good one. Yeah.
He had a run too.
Yeah.
And then he was in One Tree Hill for like probably 7 years.
I have to say, I am more attracted to Chad Michael Murray in Cinderella Story versus, which is not a surprise for me. But
can I throw something out there?
Yeah.
I don't know. He was a little bit more attractive in this movie than I remember, but he's never really done it for me. And I also wrote a note. Now, this was an initial thought when they were first playing in the garage. I was like, the drummer is kind of cute. Why isn't she going for him? But when they did the performance on the stage, I don't know if it's because he was talking more, and then I was like, I don't like this guy's vibe.
I feel like he also had like a snake shirt on, which probably is not Michelle's vibe either. In true Laura fashion, this is bizarre, but this movie, every single time I watch it, it makes me cry. I'm emotional in like most movies, but like it hits me in the feels. Like when she goes to the parent-teacher conference and she gives her the story that Harry wrote, and they have like the slow music in the background, I always tear up, and I always cry during the rehearsal dinner scene when she gives the speech.
I knew that was coming, that line about like how they lost the dad. I was like, oh no.
And I think that's why, I mean, I guess this is a very nostalgic movie for me, but I love movies, even though this isn't like an Oscar award winning movie. I love movies that make me laugh and make me cry. They have like a little bit of everything. And I think, we will get into the things that I could probably maybe not do without, but just things that I guess I don't appreciate as an adult rewatching this movie. But it really hits on some great notes. Like Jamie Lee Curtis is she's doing it all in this movie.
We somehow brought it back to her again.
How do we feel about Elton Bates?
Elton Bates is
her teacher.
English teacher.
Oh, yeah. Steven Tobolowsky?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you know his actor name, but you don't know the characters.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's in every movie. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
I feel like I only know him from this movie.
I feel like I've seen him in so many things that I almost have a hard time placing him as like her teacher. He's just like this actor that I know. I don't know. So maybe I'm not the right person to say anything about him. What do you guys have to say?
He was just a good example of like a supporting character that was very cartoonish, that
Yes.
they had a nice placement of.
I wanted to talk about Evan, played by, sadly, the late Willie Garson,
Oh,
who
I didn't know
I,
he passed away.
yeah, so I think a lot of people know him from Sex and the City, but I
yes.
feel like where I really got to know him was Jimmy and I watched, because Jimmy like loved it. So we watched it like 3 times. The show White Collar, where he plays this amazing character named Mozzie, who, I mean, I feel like I only like the show because he was in it. So I was really surprised. Like, I remembered the character of Evan, but I didn't like know who Willie Garson was when I saw the movie. So it was a delight to see him. And that was another great character. I almost like wish that I feel like he kind of like dropped off after the first half of the movie, and I almost wanted to like see him at the wedding, or trying to crash the rehearsal dinner.
Oh my God. I know we haven't talked about this yet, but just the therapist, like office scenes are so great. Everything that Jamie Lee Curtis says in those scenes. But I love Sex in the City. Like I've sort of been rewatching. I more so watch a lot of clips, I feel like, on my on my phone when they pop up, but I feel like I always forget that I don't like going back and watching this. I like forgot that he was in this. So it was a nice little inclusion.
I think that whole relationship was like so brilliant that like, they show in the beginning that he's like the needy or neediest patient. She talks to him every day for 3 years and she has to remind him that she's going on her honeymoon. I was cracking up because it is like, even though you feel bad for him, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is just like something that therapists have to deal with.
Yeah.
And also, I love how like once they switch bodies, like Anna like did not take any of it seriously. Like I love that in her teenage mind, she was like, "Are you kidding?" With all these adults like needing to talk to you all the time, and like when she met with the clients in the office, she was like doodling the entire time, and then just like asking, "How do you feel about that?" Because even though it's a joke, like truly, like I'm sure that happens a lot with therapists where they just like, if they don't know how to respond, that's it. You have to say something. Also, Michelle, I'm wondering if you have a memory from the old Freaky Friday with those references, because there was a character named Boris in the original Freaky Friday. So I think the scene in this movie is like somebody comes to deliver a package to her office and she's like, Evan? Right? And then he's like, no, Boris. So I just like that they kind of threw in some old references from the original movie for anybody who knew it. I want to say there was like somebody, like either a mailman or somebody who came to their house in the original film, and his name was Boris.
Boris was the love interest. That actor probably loved doing that. That was probably so
And
fun
also-
to like have a little cameo.
That actor was part of another prominent film to table review movie. Do we know which one?
I don't. No idea.
The actor in the new Freaky Friday?
Yeah, the guy who plays Boris, who I think also played the love interest. I don't know if his name was Boris in the original
It was
Freaky
Boris.
Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
Also played Marty McFly's brother, Dave.
Wow. That's a deep cut, Michelle. I'm impressed.
I can't even picture. Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay, you know why? Because I'm picturing Boris without curly hair because I think he's bald in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But Boris, like young Boris in the 1975 movie, has very curly hair.
I also wear a suit to the office.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Michelle.
Oh my gosh.
Michelle, do you like Back to the Future, or is that like one of your
Just a
favorite
little
movies?
bit.
She's like, do you know that woman who was walking in the back?
You're in one frame
at minute 32. So good.
Gosh, do you want to talk a little bit about our favorite comedic scenes? Like I feel like there are jokes throughout, but to me, I'd have to say like there are probably like 2 or 3 that like I just can go back to and I know I'm gonna get a good laugh. Like when they go to House of Chang, the whole like interaction. First of all, the table is so relatable, like with the family and the teenager who doesn't want to be there, and she's just like totally like checked out and doesn't want to talk.
So Lisa,
And
if
then
that was you, you would definitely be on your flip phone, like texting your
100%.
friends. You're like, I do
Yes.
not want to be out to dinner right now with my parents. I just want to
Yeah.
go to Elise Glissy's house. Lisa, do you have a favorite quote and a favorite scene?
I'd have to say it is the whole scene where Tess is food shopping, like her interaction with a woman who works in the deli while she's on the phone with people. I just love that she takes phone calls regarding her wedding. So the caterer, whoever calls and, you know, mentions or asks if she wants a leprechaun ice sculpture at her wedding. And she's like, why would I want a leprechaun ice sculpture? I'm not even Irish. And then I just love just how casually she's like, halibut? Ew. I just think that she's just genius in the way that she just taps right in to the way that a teenager would talk, like so brutally honest. But like, meanwhile, she made all of these plans for her own wedding and she's just like canceling everything. And I just think that still, I think is like the funniest thing. Just that she's on all of these phone calls and she's just basically just like shutting down everything that she planned and like she just says it with such ease. So I'd have to say like those quotes while she's shopping. And there are like, you know, some other memorable ones like when they're in the Chinese food restaurant and Harry like puts a chopsticks in his nose and he's like, "Look, I'm a walrus." Like there's just like these little things that are just like thrown in that Laura kind of remind me of like because you were like my younger sibling, kind of like you could be Harry and like, you know, and I could be Anna. You would do silly things like that and I just felt like you know, I love that dynamic between the two, the younger sibling and the older sibling.
Michelle, what about you?
The supermarket scene was definitely for me also the one that I remembered and was of all the scenes in the movie, it's the one that lived up to how good it was in my mind after not seeing this movie for so long. But the scene that kind of surprised me that I really ended up loving was the House of Blues scene. And I always appreciate in a movie how they're able to find like when they can find a really like simple solution. So I love just like that little thing that they came up with where she was able to play off stage and unplug her guitar and like have it all worked out. I thought that that was like a really great moment. And that moment kind of made me tear up a little bit because it was like, it was the moment, a moment of them like understanding each other. And it was just like a fun when they were talking about all like the band stuff. Wango Tango, that is a real thing, right? I was like, that sounds familiar,
it's an
but I
iHeart
can't.
festival.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spot on. So when they were talking about that, I was like, oh, this is going to be like annoying. They're going to have this like low budget concert scene at the end. But I felt like, I mean, it was, but it also, like, it worked. And it reminded me of the OC that like, what was that venue that they used to go to?
The bait shop.
The bait shop. Yeah.
The bait shop. Well, the bait shop. Yeah.
That's what that brought me back to. So yeah, I don't
Michael
know.
Murray at the bait shop.
Yeah. That was a fun moment.
It felt very like School of Rock also. Just the, you know, hole in the wall venue, which is kind of cool.
But it's House of Blues, which is
House of Blues was like very popular during that time. I think Disney had the budget to do, you know.
Oh, and good call. There is still a House of Blues at Disney Springs.
There you go.
So they must be in association with each other. Lisa kind of already said the halibut line is great. I have forgotten about this one. This is not one that we say a lot, but I like when she said, "Darling, could you like just chill for a sec?" I mean, every single one of my favorite quotes is all Jamie Lee Curtis. Her inflection with the like, "Hello, it was a Ducati." It's great. And, you know, obviously Make Good Choices is like a famous one. And then the last one I wrote was the like, "Oh, I will most definitely be picking up the Volvo."
So good.
Yeah. Laura, we're leaving you with very little to choose from as per usual. Fine.
So of favorite scenes, I love the supermarket scene as well, which is ironic because that's her before she switches and like is supposed to have a comedic bone, but just it's so. I was actually talking to my friend about this at dinner last night. There's this Instagram video that people keep doing where you're like out at dinner and like having a really serious conversation, and like the waiter keeps coming over and you have to like be like, yeah, like I just broke up with this person, and they'll be like, so yeah, I'll have some bread, like just so casual. So that's kind of what it reminded me of like, and I think about this all the time. If I'm on the phone with someone on a walk, I can hear a lot of people outside of my window too. If people are on walks coming through my alleyway and they're having like these really deep discussions, and it's such a good contrast of someone being like thinking that you're talking to them. So bravo to whoever wrote that portion in. I also love the Harry underwear scene, which is kind of in the beginning of the movie, but Lisa and I remember used to like die laughing over that. I know it's like such corny, cheesy, but when she's literally trying to like cut it off of his head, it looked like it was like really strapped on there. And then the grandpa's like, oh, what's this? One of them thongs? I love like the grandpa and Harry dynamic, like that he just calls him like an old fart. It's very cute. Okay, so I have like a Jamie Lee Curtis hit list just from what I was writing down, but her mannerisms are just so great. But I love what she goes like, Mom, that's disgusting. I just had breakfast. And she's like, don't kiss him. Where she's like, cold sore. Big cold sore coming on. And I love that she just uses that. And I love that like when he's trying to kiss, she's like, I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of you. Yeah. Though just the way she says, I will most definitely be picking up the Volvo. Like I feel like it would have been, not as executed well if she didn't say most definitely. Another just phone call scene, but Lisa mentioned this like when she's canceling the halibut, but like she also gets the dentist call and she's like, root canal? It's not fair. That's not my teeth. And she says like, she goes, yeah, like I'm taking that bullet. And then also in that scene, she goes, whoa, she's blind. She goes, oh, this sucks. Like just, oh my God, so good. The other ones I have are, which is actually a Lindsay Lohan quote, but she goes like, you're the culprit, because she's like trying to determine like which friend taught her you're ruining my life. When they go back to the Chinese restaurant, they're talking to Pei Pei and she goes, let's hit her. Again, like the execution when she goes on the Dolly show and he's like, I know you're nervous, but you're gonna do great. And she just goes, I'm gonna barf. And also
push her onto the stage. When I saw her legs just like in that position and the guy just pushing her onto the stage, I was crying. And I also felt at the same time like so stressed that that was just like sprung on her. Her fiance was like, I got you onto the Dottie whatever show, and it was like, you have no choice, you're going in. I was like, oh my God.
I know, I was having so much anxiety. I also love that she doesn't know what the word senescence is, and she's trying to get it out around the adults around her, where she's like getting her makeup done. She's like, I don't really think that people even know what senescence means. And the guy's like, shut up, I'm trying to do your makeup. She executes it so well, and to Michelle's credit, like it could not be anyone else but her.
Agreed.
Especially with Everything Everywhere coming out a couple years ago, it made me have such like a newfound appreciation for Jamie Lee Curtis. I know that she had like a little bit of a hiatus leading into this movie because she had like just gotten sober, I think, before she started filming this. And I think it probably was a really special moment for her to just like, start acting again, doing something that she loves, and it being such a smash hit. Like this movie clearly means a lot to her as much as it does for us. 10 out of 10 performance for her. She's so great.
I don't know if this is anything that you guys took notes about, but can we just quickly discuss the Jake and Tess scenes?
Yes.
When she has to be enamored with this guy. I kept flip-flopping between like, wow, she did such an incredible job making it believable that she was really a teenager who was infatuated with this guy, and also being creeped out at the same time that like, and like they clearly, when they went to that coffee shop and had coffee together, and they have everyone who's like working from their computers or like just hanging out is just staring at them.
No,
It was
but
cringy, but also like she did such an amazing job
yeah, it was
of
all
playing a
her.
teenager.
But I think
So
like the
good.
cringiness is like it makes us feel so uncomfortable, but that's the point. So I think it works.
Yeah.
But her physical comedy is really good. Even when he shows up at the rehearsal dinner and she like drags him behind the bar, and she's like, I don't know, just the way that she has her hands motioning. She's like, please leave.
Lisa, you described it perfectly. I was like trying to work it out in my head about that coffee shop scene. I like part of me was like, they are vibing. Like this is great. And then the
I'm
other
like,
part of
can
me
they
is like,
date?
this is not this can't happen. So
Yeah.
like it was I feel like they pulled off exactly what they were trying to do. Yeah.
I will say, so I know that this is a different scenario because she's in, her mom's body, but like there's a movie that just came out on Amazon Prime, I think, called The Idea of You. And it's
Yeah.
like Anne Hathaway dating a Harry Styles S character. And like, there's not too much portrayal of like moms like dating younger guys, but like their chemistry in the movie is pretty great. And I feel like Chad Michael Murray and Jamie Lee Curtis's chemistry, like not even when they're sitting at the table, because I think that part's really cringy for me, which I know is the point, but like when she goes up to the counter and just the way that Jake is like, I saw you on TV, I was like, oh my God. Just like the way that I'm like, are you flirting with me? A little bit taken back. And just, I love that she finally takes the motorcycle ride. It was like, it wouldn't have hit the same if like Anna had ended up, he'd be like, I'd drive you. Like the fact that they waited for that, like in the beginning, she's like, oh, I can't, my mom will kill me. And then he's like, I don't want to take you. And then it ends up being Tess is just so
Yeah.
great. And I think I don't know what song was playing in the background when she like pulls up to Ryan's car, but like she's just so happy. Like the sun is setting and she's just like hanging on to him. So good.
These scenes were probably like in the previews or whatever, so I feel like they were almost ruined before we saw the movie. When Lindsay Lohan, before they're leaving for the rehearsal dinner, and Jake is like outside singing "Baby One More Time," and she has to get down the stairs before her mom to just like impale him and get him out of the way. Like I think that that's like the funniest thing, and then the fact that they like repeated that at the end of the wedding with the grandpa and Harry when and I just love that they like had to end up using the Chinese food catering and they had no choice, and Pepe was like so hardcore like pushing that they used her like from like the first time they went to the restaurant, and she's like, how about 10% discount? Like I was just cracking up because she like would not let go of it, and then they like finally were forced to use her.
Yeah. Us talking a lot about Jake is a good transition into the what do we not like section. Because if you don't mind, I will go first.
Please.
I think that it hits on the cringiness and the whole like this is very much supposed to be like a Tess and Anna movie, not like a Jake and Anna or Jake and Tess movie. And it's not even about the writing. It's just more so like if this were a real life situation, I'm like, don't you have anywhere to be? Like he's just literally following them around all night. You went to the rehearsal dinner? Come on. How do you know where this rehearsal dinner is? Creepy. You went to the house? You're standing outside? You went to the House of Blues? Like, I know you like music, but let's calm down. And then he shows up at the wedding in an oversized suit. I'm like, I'm with you, Michelle. I'm not really super attracted to Chad Michael Murray either, but I'm like, can you just get out? Like, we're trying to have a family moment here. I thought that their kiss at the end was sweet and very corny in like the 2000 way. But they made like such a big deal about it because it was like Lindsay Lohan's first on-screen kiss. So I feel like there was like a lot of hype around it. And also, it is kind of weird. Like he works at the school and she's 15. Just throwing it out there.
Why does he work at the school?
My thought is that he's like a TA You know, there's like 20-year-old.
That's who they hired to, like, when you picture a TA, that's who you
I mean,
would hire.
That's okay. He can look that way, but I don't know. I think growing up, because I was younger, but now watching it, I'm like, I could do without Jake.
Yeah.
He doesn't do much for me. It's more so like he's more of a vehicle or a motorcycle in the situation, like for Tess to be able to like have this, you know, cringy experience where she's like, you know, in her mom's body and like with a guy. But him himself, I'm like, I'm over him.
He has no friends that we see at all.
It's
Nothing.
It's just more so like,
lot, I guess.
I mean, he's working a lot. Respect. He's late for his second job. He really plays up that he's busy. Okay, he's late for his second job, but then he takes like a 4-hour break to hit on someone's mom. So probably not the best worker. Sneaking into the teacher's lounge. I think he just like doesn't do it for me now, going back and watching this as an adult. And I just wish he's like a gnat. I'm like, go away.
This, I should have said this under things we like, but this was like a kind of progressive for coffee shop culture. We forget it was not really that big of a thing in 2003, the way that it is now. So good on them for having him be a coffee shop employee.
I also took notice of the fact in the coffee shop that all these people were like on their MacBooks, like in there in 2003. I'm like, wow, like there
They
must
have
have been
Wi-Fi?
people like
Yeah.
I mean, it is
working
LA.
from a coffee shop, and
People are writing
that was,
their
like,
next
a little
grade script.
impressive. Can I tell you what I hated about this movie?
Please.
I have to go back to the school, and I don't know if it's just because like I was a little younger than Lindsay Lohan, but like the whole commentary on public school and how unfair it is, and like I just like this time when I saw her in detention, I was like, wow. I was like, it's so screwed up that she was just like pinned to be this girl who's put in detention because she hated Jim, and she had this girl who's like bossing her around all day. And she just like, so she just like acted out a little bit, but really like Stacy and all the other characters like, were definitely doing stuff that could afford them to get detention also. So I think the times that she got detention were in gym. She got detention from her English teacher when she like made fun of him outside. And then I feel like there's one more. But I can't remember. But I love how she went and exchanged sandwiches with the woman who was like the aide there. Like that made it so good that like the aide like knew that this was like just she couldn't even take it seriously, you know? Like I think just like looking back, that mindset of like how powerless you are in high school, like you just have to go and you just have to be in all these classes, and like you might be treated unfairly, but like no one's really gonna take your side, you know, even if you are being honest. And I think I also noticed how Anna was just like a little like edgy, like in the way that she dressed and like her music and stuff like wasn't accepted by adults. And like when we were in middle school and high school, it was very much that like the clean cut straight edge kids were taken more seriously, and then the kids who were like a little more into music or like alternative things definitely weren't taken as seriously, and I don't think respected either. I think watching this movie again, that was like the hardest thing for me to watch, because I was like, even though a lot of things in this movie are exaggerated, like that is not. And like favoritism and stuff in school is like so real. You could be in school and have a younger sibling, and if you did something that was unacceptable, it could affect the life
I
of
really
your
feel like
younger
that's
sibling.
a thing.
For
Mhm.
real.
I feel like
Yeah.
teachers
Teachers
are like, oh,
pin a kid as a bad kid.
and they'll like call you by your last name. They'll be like,
Yep.
oh, we have
Yep.
another one this year. It's like, oh my God, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got a bunch of teenagers in
Yeah.
adult bodies running the show, and then
Yeah.
you know you just have to be there. So anyway, the school I know wasn't like the whole movie, but every time I watched those scenes, I was like, I definitely have fresh eyes now for this
I
stuff.
do feel like the whole like school setting though really leans into like the corniness of the 2000s and like the
Yeah, definitely.
exaggerations of high school, which is very just like on brand, I think, for this time period. So, and kind of how Michelle had mentioned earlier, it's like going back in time. Like we don't, I don't know. I know that there's a lot of streaming shows now with high schools and stuff, but I would say Euphoria is a much different vibe than this.
Don't you also love how when Tess was standing with her and like Stacy was there, like in the beginning, she was like so embarrassed to have her mom there. Like that's very spot on.
Yeah.
Like I'll
Yeah.
drive my kids to school now and I take Isabel to the drop-off line. So like if we're blasting like The Lion King or something, as soon as we turn into that school, she's literally like, "Mom, you got to turn the volume down." She's 7 years old, and she's like, "I don't want this parent to open the door and hear that I'm listening to Disney."
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Oh my
telling you.
God. That makes me so
Real.
sad.
It's
She's
real
like
life, man.
she's like a real teen
Yeah.
almost.
Yep.
Oh, my heart just shattered.
Yeah. I don't
No.
like that.
Michelle, what about you? I feel like you've been holding back. I could see it. When Michelle has her list of grievances,
So many. So many.
she grieves, let me tell you. She
Okay.
let it out, girl. This is the therapist office.
Okay. Well, I feel like you guys have been like maybe poking holes in this first thing, especially because I feel like Lisa said something to the contrary earlier, but I almost felt like something was missing. I remember liking it more, and it may have been that it felt the production value. It just felt like a little cheap. I don't know. Did you guys get that vibe at all?
Personally, don't think about that because when I'm watching a movie like this, I'm not watching it for the production value. But that's just my opinion. But
do you know what I think it is also? The movie we did before this was It Takes Two. And I think in my mind, going to rewatch that, I was picturing It Takes Two to be more like this. And then I was so impressed at like the quality of the film. And I think that the opposite happened when I watched this. Like I went into it thinking like, this is a Disney movie. They got a lot of money behind it. These like huge stars. And I have like such fond memories because our family quotes this movie still all the time. I don't know. There was something about it that made me feel wanting more.
I think it was very formulaic in terms of the production of how so if you watch like Cinderella Story, pretty similar. But I do feel like their budget had to be I know it all took place in LA and was shot in LA, but they had a lot of different like settings that they shot at. But I don't know.
Maybe production is not even the right. I don't know. It just, there was like, take Jamie Lee Curtis out of this movie and like it just,
I mean, you have nothing
it
really.
Completely like she's carrying the whole movie without her in it. I don't think that I would like it at all.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
And of course there are other movies we love where there's like one character who's doing most of the work, but I don't necessarily think that that's a great thing to just having one person carry the whole movie. So that was, I know that's not like funny, but that's kind of was like,
we didn't really talk about Ryan at all though.
No, I feel like that's the fact that we have not mentioned him at all kind of says it all, that like,
but I think he's supposed to be in the background. Like
he's just like, they needed this character and my eyes glaze over. Just,
I think that he plays the part though.
He was fine. It was fine. Yeah. I appreciated that he had that line about where he was kind of like standing up for Anna and she was getting to see that like he did really care about her. But the way he was saying it sounded like so explainy and like saying exactly what he needed to say, almost as if he knew.
I do like that she says though when he goes through that whole thing and she goes, but again, this is Jamie Lee Curtis. She's like, that's very cool. It's very cool. So good.
All right, I'll rapid fire just a few other of the things that bugged me. The transformation scenes, especially the first one, felt like when they actually like switch bodies when they're in the Chinese restaurant, just felt really hokey. Was the Chinese stuff like cultural appropriation? I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. It made me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that they probably should just cut that out. Or I think, especially during this time period, it's just really unfortunate that there's like zero representation unless for like main characters. So I'm happy that we're doing a better job of that, but I wish that it was just more like not a thought and just, you know, we have a
Yeah.
long way to go for sure. Like, come on, Disney, do a better job.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
got to,
we're getting
yeah,
better,
we're
but
getting,
yeah.
there. Yeah.
But I think that kind of like dated
Yeah.
it a little bit.
Yes.
The whole Dottie Robertson setup felt like it was just, I mean, we knew that she wrote a book and that was established earlier on, but I felt like that whole scene was just kind of like dropped in, which I suppose fits in with how Anna, as pretending to be Tess, must have felt like it came out of nowhere. But it truly felt like, do we know what Ryan's job is? Like, is does he work in like talk show production? He was just like, hey, I got you this gig, you're going on in 5 minutes. Like, I was just, when that I was like, wait, did I skip a scene? Did I miss something?
Yeah.
And I felt like they dedicated so much to that one scene. It felt really dense. Like if I was looking at like a visual map of all the scenes in the movie, like just a lot happens there. But like what was really the point of it? It felt a little unnecessary to the plot for me.
I think the point of it was probably that they had to get her on TV, um, so that Jake could see her on TV, and like that kind of sparked the like, oh, your mom is so cool, like obsession with him, which also that part of the plot was like not vital, but I think it was vital in the sense that Tess had to come to this understanding about Jake that like underneath his like bad boy exterior, like he was like somewhat responsible and like his interests were like kind of cool, and she had to like shift her view of him in order to like accept him for her daughter. The whole thing about her being on the talk show is like changing the narrative about Tess. She has like this button up job, like as a therapist. She should like just let go a little bit and like not take things as seriously and not be as like type A. And like Ryan and like the grandpa were kind of into it, that she kind of just let go a little bit.
I think it was probably a little bit too long, but I agree with Lisa. I think that it kind of like took to new heights, like how much they made her like free and crazy and like made everyone else see her in that way. I just love the body language of her sitting in the interview, but then going to sit like on her
Yes.
knees to like get
So
comfy.
good. So
It was
good.
so great. Yeah, I mean it's like really turned up. I will say that when she starts like screaming, but I think the absurdity is like what makes it funny.
Can I poke another hole in it though? Like as you're saying this, I was like, oh yeah, I can see this for like the transformation of like the character of like Tess, but like Tess was not, that was not her. So she didn't, it was just Anna acting out. It wasn't like Tess growing and loosening up because she was not present there at
Yes,
all.
true.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think at least for me, like it's more so showing for the movie that she's like doing all this outlandish stuff, not for other people to look at her differently, but more so like, oh my God, she's doing all these crazy things. So
Okay, so more of like a
yeah,
comedic
it's not
thing.
about in my mind.
I,
I'm like, it's not really character growth. It's just
okay. And
her being wild.
I agree with, I mean, Lisa, good call that it's kind of like the setup for Jake seeing her on TV. But that, I mean, that leads me to my next grievance. As much as like I thought they were really vibing in the coffee shop, the idea that like it started with him seeing her on a talk show, I wanted that whole thing, like there had to have been like a more creative solution for that whole setup and for him to actually like more believably, I know we're suspending a lot of belief or disbelief in this throughout this whole movie, but yeah, all of that like went like that, it happened like in a snap, and it I don't know, it took me out of it.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's very unrealistic that he would have been working at a coffee shop near the Dottie studio because LA is
Yeah.
very big. And unless he was like, I'm going to get a job near the studio so that Tess comes in because he's creepy and he's just trying to weasel his way. I'm like, don't you have anything else to do?
They definitely were like went a little overboard, like with wanting Anna to like will Tess to like loosen up and like, because remember she was like, you suck the fun out of everything, fun sucker. Like I love that quote
Yeah.
too. Like it's so, because like as a mom, like now, like sometimes just doing your job as a mom, like you become the fun sucker because you have no choice. Even though it was Anna in her body, she kind of was just like, because Anna watched her on the TV too. It was kind of refreshing to like see her saying these things that like parents definitely will like make things more complicated than they need to be. Like we get takeout like 3 nights a week and like we do it when I'm like, I'm either going to lose my mind or we're going to choose an easier option. Like I love that they did that.
I also think, and this was very much of the time, especially we grew up with like everything was about like weight loss programs and all these things. But when they're in the car and she's like, I haven't had a French fry in 8 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that was written into the script as like,
Yeah.
this is our expectation. And it just really pissed me off because I think there's so many things that we grew up with that were so like snuck in of like, if you literally have fast food once, like
Yeah.
you're gonna blow up. But like, what's wrong with being
And also that's
different weight?
the terrible thing to happen.
It's just like, I guess what I'm saying is like of that time period that was so prevalent in like every piece of media that we consume, from movies to shows, magazines especially. It's really shitty. The expectations that
it is.
they have
and
on,
we were
on
teenagers.
women. Yeah. People don't go to the movies as much. A lot of people are watching content from their couch, they're streaming, whatever. But there are movies like Challengers that just came out, which I haven't seen yet, that people are talking about, and it will be part of our cultural fabric in 20 years. So like these are movies that teenagers are watching over and over again. So make sure the thing that you're putting in there is not going to impact people in a negative way. If you're trying to say something with class, and cheapness, I think, is not appreciated from me in scripts and movies. Away with it. We're eating our McDonald's French fries, which is a great transition into our food section. I will say, not too many food moments in this movie, which I was a little let down about, but the champagne theory holds up. We're doing well. For me, honestly, it really just made me want to have McDonald's French fries. When I think of McDonald's French fries, I think of this time. Like I think of like a big red box with like piping hot French fries. And I know they're still great, but I do feel like, I think their design is different. I could be wrong. I don't know if either of you have had it as of recent, but there's just something about McDonald's French fries in the 2000s and 90s that I'm like, I'm all in. All I would need is, as I say in almost every episode, just like a nice cold Coca-Cola and I'd be all set. I will say, like in high school, before soccer practice, I would go to the McDonald's drive-through in the shopping center right near our high school, and I would get like, they had this like chicken wrap at the time, and it was just like a quick snack. And in my mind, I was like, this is definitely healthier. Probably because they implanted in my brain watching this movie that McDonald's and all this food is gonna make me not look great. So I was trying to go the healthier route, I guess. Is there anything else this movie made either of you want to eat?
I don't know if we ever saw Chinese food, but I kind of wanted Chinese food. I mean, I always
want Chinese food.
Why didn't we ever get to, like, I guess they never really got their dinner
well,
served
because
in.
they were shooken up by the earthquake that no one else felt. So They cut right to the overnight transition scene. So
They
it's a
didn't have
shame.
room for in the budget, I guess,
For the
that.
Peking duck. I
Yeah.
love Peking duck.
Yeah, that's all I wrote was Chinese food, McDonald's, French fries, and maybe go to a coffee shop. Oh, but I wanted to bring up what I had at dinner last night.
Oh, please.
I had halibut. I was between two different. I
Wow.
was between a grouper and a halibut. They both sounded like they would be prepared great. And I was like, I have to go home and watch Freaky Friday after this. Let's get the halibut, and it was fantastic. It was
Really?
not ew.
I don't even know what halibut. I feel like
Laura,
I don't even know what halibut
at your
tastes like.
wedding?
Maybe.
I feel
I
like
don't know.
you did because I thought I remember like
I had
saying halibut ew.
scallops. I don't
Maybe
think that I
not.
had halibut.
Okay.
I think that we were making jokes because I was like, oh, there's a lot of like fish
Okay.
on the menu, you know.
It's similar to cod. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
white,
Yeah.
not as flaky, but a white fish.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Lisa?
I kind of was disappointed that they did not show legitimate food and like eating. I actually got Thai last night. So it's
Ooh.
not Chinese food, but I did have some spring rolls while I was watching this. And I felt like it kind of like complemented the Chinese food scene because just that restaurant looks like so cozy. I would love to go sit down and have a meal at that restaurant.
Yeah.
I just
Same.
love that open dining room, and it was like a classy restaurant. I do agree that like the fries were like obviously looked amazing, but I also kind of love that during this time, 2003, 2002, 2001, there was a lot of like these brands just being blasted in movies, and I kind of like that it was like a little low key with that.
Mhm.
Because I can't tell you how many of these movies, like Starbucks is everywhere and this and that. And like sometimes it adds to the comedy, but then sometimes I'm just like, it's too much and it's too in your face. So I think I definitely liked that was like toned down a little bit. I'm trying to think if it made me crave anything. I don't think so, but I definitely like that was like kind of like a little alternative coffee shop. I would have liked like a nice latte or like some kind of specialty coffee drink.
So this is our this or that section. So Lisa, are you ready? This is rapid fire.
Ready.
Just whatever comes to mind. Okay. Ducati or Volvo?
Volvo.
Classy lady over here. Peking duck or fortune cookie?
Fortune cookie.
Would you rather give Evan a therapy session or sit through detention?
I think I'd rather sit through detention.
Fair.
I've never been in detention, so gotta
Wow.
try
I don't think
something
I have
new.
either. Maybe there's an adult detention experience.
I think it's called jail.
Not great. I mean, sometimes I'm like, I would love to just sit in a quiet room and have no one bother me and not have to go to class or not go to work. So, what are you cutting from your wedding? A leprechaun ice sculpture or halibut?
I think halibut. Not a
Okay.
big fan. I'd take the ice sculpture.
Okay. Would you choose Anna's guitar t-shirt or Tess's pink ice dress that she bought? That was like the name of the store.
When did she wear the dress?
Like the whole day. You know
Like when
that
she
like
got her
dress.
makeover.
Yeah.
I think Anna's shirt.
Jake's haircut or JLC's haircut?
Oh, God. Do I have to choose either? What about just no to both?
I mean, you don't have to
I
get it.
guess-
Just which one do you prefer? Which haircut would win in a haircut off?
They're both so bad. I don't know. I guess JLC's haircut because it was like trendy at the time and it was like a power move for a woman.
We also did not talk about how much I absolutely hate Anna's hair in this movie.
It's so bad.
No,
So
but
bad.
it's so the part. Would you rather swap places with mom or one of your daughters? At the current ages.
Our mom?
Mhm.
Or one of my kids?
Your daughters specifically. Let's say Izzy, because she's in her rebellious
7-year-old.
non-Disney stage.
I think one of my kids.
Wow. Okay. Would you rather have your door taken away or someone read your diary when you're like a teen?
Have my door taken away. 100%. We all are like, to Michelle's point, we didn't have privacy anyway. So
Yeah.
Would you rather have to give a speech at your stepdad and mom's rehearsal dinner or have to play guitar in front of screaming fans?
You know what? That's actually a tough one because you can have alcohol before the speech or the show when you're 15, unless you did it in a stealth way. But did you guys notice how she picked up a glass of water
Yes.
before she said the speech at the
Well-
rehearsal dinner? And in my mind, I'm like, she was definitely partying with Paris Hilton outside of this during this time. I still think I'd rather do the speech. I feel like on a stage, there's nowhere to hide. And yeah, no, definitely the speech. I'd rather do the
Okay.
speech.
And last question, I'll leave it maybe out into the ether because Michelle and I will do a Mean Girls recap episode at some point. Preference between Anna Coleman or Caddy Heron? Or
I
who would
think
you
Anna-
rather hang out with if you were in high school?
Honestly, I think Anna. She like was unapologetically herself, and Katie just, was easily influenced and trying to be somebody she wasn't. So
Wow.
Anna Coleman all the way.
Such a deep answer, Lisa. Well
It's
done.
real. It's real.
I'm loving this segment. Stay tuned for next week's. It's going to be a hoot. All right, Leigh, I know you have to drop.
Lisa,
Yeah.
thanks for being here with us.
Yeah.
We're gonna sadly have to do our dinner party without you, but we're really
This was a
missing out
blast.
because we could use your cooking skills for this. But
We could.
So much fun.
God, of course. All
Such
right.
a blast from
Bye,
the past.
Stacy. Enjoy gym class.
bye, Stacy.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, so since it is Mother's Day tomorrow, I think that we should put together a little Mother's Day,
Like a brunch.
a brunch. Let's do
Okay.
a brunch. So I'm going to give you the butcher from the supermarket, Jake and Evan. So the butcher from the supermarket, she's unnamed, but let's name her Sally. I feel like
Okay.
she would be a Sally. She is a mom. We don't know much about her backstory, but let's say that she is a mom. Maybe she's a newly divorced mom.
Okay.
And she has invited some fellow Angelinos who somehow have ties to her. I mean, Jake is everywhere, so maybe he's a neighbor and he and his mom go over for brunch. And Evan is, a friend of a friend. And
Needed somewhere
he's
to go
going
for
over.
Mother's
He knows
Day.
his mother is no longer with us, so he needs a table to sit at. So she is hosting this Mother's Day brunch. What is she cooking?
This is quite the backstory. Okay, I feel like we have two. She seems pretty beaten down, broken. Like they should really be making it for her, but that's okay. I think that this is just in her nature that she's gonna be welcoming to these two guys. We've got Evan, who is, I think, going to be pretty needy. And then we have Jake, who's just kind of this unpredictable source. So I think first and foremost, if this is a brunch and she knows that Jake works at a coffee shop, Sally is going to go above and beyond with coffee selections. I think that she's going to be serving both a drip coffee and also, I don't think that she owns an espresso machine, but I think that she's somehow gonna either rent one or maybe one of her supermarket employees might have one that she can borrow just for the brunch on it. Because I think that she's gonna try to offer these two gentlemen, like, act as a barista, like, I'll make you whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So big coffee presence at this brunch. I think that she would be one, especially if we're going to go with the story that she's recently divorced and stretched too thin, maybe making one of those like egg casseroles that you kind of make the night before and then stick in the oven right before the guests get there. So I'm thinking something, not a frittata, like more of like a casserole with really, simple ingredients, maybe just with like some ham and bell pepper and cheese, and that's it. an egg, nothing
Okay.
gourmet. Because I'm
Sounds
also trying to,
great.
yeah, I mean, I would enjoy that, but I feel like I'm also trying to stay like in the era where, like New York Times cooking, I know we brought that up last week, wasn't really like a thing yet. What else? Orange juice and maybe a side of bacon and a fruit salad. A fruit salad, but like because she works in the supermarket, she's not cutting up all the fruit. She's either going to just get one of the pre-made ones or maybe even just getting like they have like bags of like I feel like mom used to get this for a certain dessert she used to make, just like a bag of frozen already cut up various fruits.
The
And
Costco fruit with
yeah,
the cream on
yeah,
the
that's the dessert I'm
vanilla
thinking of.
pudding.
Yeah. But I'm thinking that she might just like buy a bag of that and then let it defrost and then
Yeah.
serve that.
I
Um,
feel like Evan is only eating the fruit because he's definitely like allergic to eggs, bacon, and like oranges.
Probably. But I wanted to make sure I'm imagining it being like a very sterile environment. Like everything's like really clean for Evan's sake because I don't know,
He
he
gets
seems a
nervous.
little,
Yeah.
yeah. Am I not taking advantage of enough of the fact that she's a butcher? Should I be
No,
doing more
I
meats?
actually think that she might be a vegetarian. I think that she
Oh,
just works at a butcher.
this is part
Her
of her sad
struggle.
story. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she's like, I needed a job because my
That
husband left me and I have to pay for my divorce. And the supermarket had an opening, but they only had the butcher position, even though I'm a vegetarian. So,
she would make all this and she probably wouldn't eat anything and Jake
no,
would
yeah,
probably eat
she could have the
everything.
eggs.
That's
She could have
true.
the
And
eggs.
pick
Yeah,
around the ham.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So I think Jake is eating most of this and then requesting several different coffees. Like unaware that this woman needs a break and is just taking her up on every offer.
He's like rolling up on his bike in the leather jacket and he's like, where's that drip coffee?
Yeah. And we know he likes moms, so
I could see him like helping out. Like maybe him and
oh,
Sally have a moment in the kitchen. We don't know. He's moved on from Tess. He was like, Anna's a big rock star now, so I'm just making my way into Mother's Day brunches. Maybe this is we'll throw it in the idea jar now that the idea of you has inspired me.
I'm excited to see what you come up with for your group. I'm going
Okay.
to give you 4 people because 2 of them come as a pair, but I think you can
Okay.
handle it.
Okay.
So we're going to go with Anna's 2 bandmates, the two girls, her friends, who I don't know their names, but I can look them up for you if you want. Your second/third guest will be Boris, the delivery person.
Okay.
Feel free to like play around with the fact that like he was in the original movie.
Yes.
And we'll make your third guest the woman who runs detention.
Oh, wow. This is a mixed bag. Okay, so the story that I am telling here is that this is like Sunday detention because the bandmates not only tried to kidnap Anna, but they were like spray painting on the side of school. So they were like, you have to come in on a Sunday morning for an hour. And Boris just happened to be doing like a drop off at the school. So they were like, oh, come in. We're having like a Mother's Day brunch. My story with the detention teacher is that she has a grown son who like lives in Colorado that she doesn't see. And that's why she's like always in a bad mood. And she doesn't usually have people to like share meals with. So that's why her and Anna like have their thing where they swap lunch because it's like, oh, it's a child's, I have this relationship with them. So I think that she's like, fuck this. They were like, listen, Judy, whatever her name is, like, I know you don't have anything to do today. I know it's Mother's Day. Like, can you come in on a Sunday? Because these girls need attention. So she's like, fine, I'm coming in on a Sunday. I'm having a brunch. They can join if they want. And again, Boris is dropping off some Scantrons that are being delivered. So I think that she is getting like McDonald's breakfast. Like I'm talking, she's getting delivery. She is taking a page out of the Dottie show of like, you don't always need to cook. It's okay to get some delivery sometimes. So she's getting like, I'm talking Egg McMuffins, the pancakes with the syrup, orange juice, hash browns, like, but like in the little pack. And I need to say, like, by the way, this episode is not sponsored by McDonald's, although it should be. Sometimes I've had McDonald's breakfast and I'm like, this is it. This is good. Even though I should not feel that way. But it really is. But it really does make your car smell. So, like, unfortunately, when the next round of detention comes in on Monday, it is not going to be pleasant for them to be going into this. There's also no janitor. So you know that Judy is leaving all of these, things at cleanup. I don't think that she's bringing in like a tablecloth or anything. I think that she like, let's say that Uber Eats was around, like she's getting McDonald's Uber Eats to the school for the four of them. I think that Anna's friends are both like, this is bullshit that I have to come in. They're like, I don't eat breakfast. They're like, I'm not into this. So they just have like Funyuns. Like I just see them eating like chips from the vending machine and like Monster energy drinks. And I think that one of them brings in like a little bit of liquor because they're like, oh, this is a brunch. I'm going to get boozed up. So things are getting a little crazy. And Boris has just like gotten completely thrown into the situation, but he's like, I think that he's single and he's nothing going on. And Judy was like, would you like to join us for brunch? And he's like, yes, pass me a McMuffin. Quite the scene. I think that the girls are like, in the back of the room, like in the last desks, like drinking and, just sitting there. And I think that Boris and Judy are like using the desk as like their table setting.
I like this as like a little redemption moment for Judy. I love the that she's a son who lives in Colorado.
He was
that is perfect.
I'm moving. And you could tell he was like a kid who did get in trouble a lot. So it came full circle that she became like the head of detention.
Yeah.
Like he would get detention and she still worked at the school. So she was like, this is in a way a bonding moment with my son, even though he keeps writing inappropriate things in Sharpie on the inside of bathroom stalls and like cursing off the teachers.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that Boris's parents are like, they also like moved away and he kind of feels abandoned. So
yeah.
I think that this is like the start of like a nice,
yeah,
not to bring another mother younger, not that I think that they're closer to the same age. So it's a less.
Yeah. So what we're getting out of our dinner parties is the butcher and Jake, our new flame, and potentially the detention teacher and Boris. Maybe the four of them. But
I see that as more of a like
a
familial,
familial.
Thing.
Yeah. This is very sweet.
This is a weird dinner party, but I feel like it fits with the tone
great.
Of the movie.
I mean, it's very perfect because there's not really much food, so we had to get inventive. Sometimes our dinner parties are not full of candles and roasted chicken, okay? We think outside of the box sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes we just need to Uber Eats some McDonald's. My God, I have been absolutely loving this season so far. Just ready for the next one at the end of every episode. So we're taking a little bit of a break from our last two episodes that took place in California, and we're taking a trip to Illinois, and we are keeping with our girl Lindsay here, and we will be covering Mean Girls next week. 2004 release, a year after Freaky Friday came out. Please tune in and listen.
Yeah, thanks for joining us at the table. We can't wait to hear your thoughts about this episode. Text us or leave us a voicemail at 904-513-1383. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review or hit that button to give us 5 stars. If you've been enjoying watching on YouTube, click the link below to subscribe to our channel and give one of our past episodes a thumbs up. And lastly, tell a friend by sharing your favorite episode with them. Thanks so much for supporting us. Yeah, we went to dinner with our friends last night, and yeah, I feel like
where'd you go?
This
Wait, you
place,
had halibut and dinner out?
I had halibut at dinner.
Oh,
What did you think? I went fishing?
I know that you like cooked yourself halibut.